Juan Deere is back again with something guaranteed to make your life just a little bit easier. You thought they had everything covered with the instant classic Juan Deere S10 and under? Well, you couldn't be more wrong. The wise people at Juan Deere know your child even better than you do. They're aware that as little Jimmy's brain grows and develops, he's going to stop wanting to play the mow the yard game. Eventually, he's going to get bored and lazy. Luckily, the adult product engineers at Juan Deere are experienced at outsmarting children of all ages. Trust us, we hired the majority of them away from Hasbro and Mattel. With that in mind, on sale now at all Juan Deere locations is the amazing, brand new S11 and over all-yard ATV. The men and women at Juan Deere have taken your child's TikTok corrupted attention span into account with this fabulous new children's riding lawnmower. The S11 and over is totally customizable. You can slap on some of the free Juan Deere stickers that are included and have little Lance or Karen feeling like a big X Games star as they ride around the yard, naively doing good old dad's yard work for him for at least a couple more summers. This allows you to continue propping your feet up with your favorite cold beverage on Saturday and catching every minute of the game. Still equipped with all of the safety features that you've come to expect and rely on, Juan Deere has broken the mold again with the S11 and over all-yard ATV. Just tell them, put away that homework for now, kids. It's time for you to head outside for some fresh air and fun. Then you relax, pat yourself on the back, and let your kids take care of the mowing for you. Find it now, just in time for spring, at all authorized Juan Deere dealers.
Oh, here we go again. Hey everybody, here we are again. It's your two dads, it's your online dads, your digital daddies, and we are back with yet another special episode.
Another special one.
We're giving them out like Christmas presents, you guys. Right. I mean, you're so lucky. But this time around, we're getting really crazy. We've got someone from the magical, mystical land of New Zealand.
Hey.
A dad from across the world. He's literally like, if I dug a hole through the earth, I think I would land in his backyard.
Yeah, instead of China, like they
always
told us.
He's that far away. It's Reilly from Auckland, New Zealand. How's it going, man?
Very, very good. Thank you very much. I'm actually in the South Island of New Zealand.
Oh, but, my goodness.
So it's even
all of my questions. I went off your Facebook profile, so.
Sorry. It's even further down if you dig a little bit deeper. But I am Frodo's cousin. I'm not sure if you guys watch Lord of the Rings. I'm Frodo's cousin. And I do kind of live in a hobbit house. I'm not going to lie. It's a tiny house. So I'm basically the epitome of, I've got a South African accent for those listening who might think he's not a Kiwi or New Zealander, but because I'm from South Africa originally. But yes, other side of the world, and I'm really, really happy to be here. It's not often that it's actually my first time I've been interviewed as an interviewee. I interview a lot of people, but being interviewed by someone is kind of special.
That's cool. Well, we're trying to get just dads from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Just get, stories and advice and what have you from anybody and everybody, really.
That's
awesome. We are new dads, so we're definitely still learning.
How old are your children, if you don't mind me asking?
Mine will be 2 in July.
Why are you looking at me?
Because I needed to concentrate.
It's not my kid.
Yeah, but I thought you might say, at the very most, maybe you could have nodded and give me a thumbs up.
I was gonna say, yeah, but you just looked at me like I should know.
Okay, yeah. Maybe you should know.
Maybe you should know. 2 in July. I've got a 6-year-old girl, 6.5, and a 3-year-old girl.
Nice.
That's me.
Mine will be 3 in a couple weeks in May.
Right on.
Fun
Well,
ages.
that actually
Middle of May.
That was going to be one of the questions. With like your number of kids and their ages. We may come back to that actually if we have time. We had something we wanted to ask you in regards to the things that you had dealt with. As far as the background, you said you're originally from South Africa. Anything else cool that you could throw out there to mystify and I don't know, draw the fans in?
No, an amazing thing. There are a couple of incredible things. I've had quite an interesting life. I'm 30 years old now. You guys look younger, but it might be similar.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. It must be because the camera's so far away.
Yeah.
It must be the camera. But I growing up, one of the cool things I had was a pet lion. So I had a lion. This is truth. The lion's parents passed away, and we took it in. And when I was a baby, I don't remember too much about it, but my parents showed me photos, and there's a little pet lion. So growing up with a pet lion is quite special. A lot of people think, people from South Africa basically ride a rhino to work, or but yeah, pet lion's pretty cool. And we used to camp in overnight safaris over there. I came over to New Zealand when I was 16. My parents had nothing. They just had a backpack, and we didn't have residency or anything like that. And they found a job, worked really, really hard to allow us to have a really cool life. And yes, we were in Auckland for 12 years. And then we moved to the South Island, to a smaller town, because we could actually afford to buy a house. And we live off-grid here in New Zealand, in the South Island. Off-grid, we're on solar power, and we poop in a bucket. We've got a compostable toilet, which is fun. And we've got 70 chickens, 2 ponies, 3 goats, 4 dogs, a couple of parrots, a couple of tortoises, and a bunch of other animals, and 5 acres in the bush. So, yeah, we love our life. We love our life. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
You may also be psychic, because you just answered like at least 1 or 2 more questions that I had written down. That does sound really amazing, though. I mean, like if I could just get into that situation without building it up the way you probably had to, then I would be like, okay, I can make this happen. But I'm not going to just move into that situation and then start from the ground up. Like I just couldn't do that.
No, I know what you mean. It does take a lot of time, and it's hard work, but there's nothing better than bringing your children up. This way is a real special way to bring your children up in the bush, amongst nature, teaching them empathy and sympathy with animals. It's quite special.
Yeah.
Right on. Good content. So I've got these list of questions that we will maybe run through quickly, maybe not. And I'm just going to run down the line. So if it looks like I'm reading, it's because I'm reading. So first off, you're from New Zealand. And I don't know if this is more just an American thing, but do you feel like Australia gets all the attention?
Australia does get a lot of attention, that's for sure. But we have the best rugby team here in New Zealand, the All Blacks. And we always hold that over the Australians. Having the All Blacks, the number 1 team in the world, really makes us stand out there. And Australia has so many freaking things to kill you.
I was just going to say,
spiders,
nothing else.
Snakes.
Yeah.
I went to Australia and they said, wear long pants because ticks are going to come up and bite your balls. And you don't have that here. You can go into the bush and you won't be killed by little animals. You might be attacked by a deer is the worst thing.
Right on. Moving on. You went to a boys' school. At least that's what Facebook says. Was it a religious school?
It wasn't a religious school. I am religious as a person, though. I'm Christian. But it wasn't a religious school. It was just a boys' school. It's quite well known in New Zealand, but it's good for sports and music and stuff like that.
Oh, right on. Oh, cool. When I think boys' school, I think a massive amount of testosterone in the air. Were there a lot of like a lot of guys punching around in back of the school?
You know what? In South Africa, growing up at schools, there was a lot of fights at co-ed schools. But I've thought about this before, and being at a boys' school, there's no one to impress.
Yeah.
There's no one to impress. You don't have to worry about, there's girls around. We need to fight and kick each other's ass to show who's the boss. So there's a lot of mutual respect at a boys' school. There are some hazing and stuff like that. I went to a boys' school in South Africa before I left, and again, a lot of mutual respect. The only weird thing was, as initiation to the school, they used to hold the boys down, spray aerosol deodorant on people's nipples, and then flick the nipple off once it freezes.
Oh my God. Are you for real?
Yeah, for real. That was initiation. So everyone had one nipple, and that was a bit of fun.
That was a bit of fun.
But no boys' school, no fighting. It was quite a strict school, so we didn't fight. When the girls came to play, we fought. But no, we didn't fight at the boys' school. Less fighting.
Interesting. A little bit of psychology. Okay, so going on, New Zealand is a mystical place with Tanawa, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Mole House, and hobbits. Do you have any cool ghost stories?
Ghost?
Yeah. Any paranormal activity?
Hey, that's a good question. Not necessarily ghost stories, but There was a weird thing that happened to me recently. So we live quite far away from civilization, and being in the bush, you don't hear much. And walking outside one day, we heard this weird singing in the distance. And I was like, what the heck is that? It was like a group of like 50 to 100 people singing with drums in a different language. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So I tried to walk in closer and listen to them. And I heard it was it was sounded like either Maori, which is a native language, or something else, but I'm not fluent. And then I walked closer, snuck through the bush, and I found these people who were dressed all in red. And they had a bull's head, and they were covered in blood, and they were dancing naked around this fire. And I had my daughters with me at the time, so I moved them. I told my daughters to look away. I didn't approach them, but
No, I don't think I would have either.
No, I don't know that I would.
But there were probably about 20, 30 people doing that. And that's a little bit strange. And I couldn't find out what the hell they were doing. But after Googling it, it seemed like they were doing, which is weird, they were doing a Native American Indian ritual.
Huh.
Which is so strange in a little town in the bush in New Zealand. But that was the closest I got to, I suppose, paranormal. It was very, very weird.
That is definitely extra normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had someone dancing naked in your driveway?
No. And if I did, I would have, looked the other way and then probably called. I could call the cops because I live in civilization. But 20 or 30 people. That is, I don't even I don't know. Like I would be so afraid that I would be the next head that they were going to hold up.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't expect to walk in on that, and you didn't know what they were doing.
I let them be. I did leave them be. But I did just to show them that I had some weapons. I did some target practice on. I shot my shotgun a few times. Not them.
They noticed you, or you think they saw you?
No, they didn't. They didn't see me. But I went back and I made some noise just to show them.
Yeah,
that,
just so they would know.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the community. We're here, and this is kind of our area.
You're not alone out here. All right. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, the next question was about living off the grid. You talked a bit about that. Moving on. So, okay, this is about Auckland. It's between the Pacific and the Tasman Sea. So much water. Have you ever seen any sharks or had any encounters?
Yeah, for sure. A few actually, a few encounters. There aren't a tremendous amount of great whites here in New Zealand, but that's the scariest shark.
Yeah.
But we do have a bunch of other sharks. I've seen so many fins, and me and my wife are ocean swimmers, so we do ocean races around the country. So yeah, one time we were doing an ocean race. My wife touched something blue in the water, and she told me at the end. And we got out the water, and there was a big blue shark there, quite a big one. And another time in South Africa, I know it was a question about New Zealand, but in South Africa, I was a lifesaver. And on the beach, I'm standing there. I'm only 11, 12 years old, standing there, checking. And this woman used to come every single day and have a swim every single day. And she's an older lady. She goes in up to her waist, stands there, cleans her goggles out, and a great white takes her. And you just see her disappear. And we went out in the boats, looked for her. All we found was her swimming cap. She was eaten whole by a great white.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's what I was hoping you would have a story about. That shit, I watched Jaws at a way too early an age. And, I've been fascinated and repelled and just frightened ever since. If I'm dreaming and there's water in the dream, there's going to be a great white shark in the dream too. It's just...
I'd die of a heart attack before the shark eats me. I'd hope I'd die of a heart attack before the shark eats me.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
like similar to your wife, I almost touched I think it was a white tip when I was snorkeling. I just knew it was a tail with a white tip on it. It fluttered away before I could grab it. So that was about the closest I came physically. Nothing, to write home about though, and nothing quite as crazy as that. So did you see it happen? Did you see her disappear?
Yeah. Yes, I was looking at her because I liked her and I spoke to her quite a bit. And as I said, she was swimming there for about 40, 50 years, every single day in the morning.
Wow.
And then after that, shark attacks happened every week at that particular beach. It was a beach called Fishhook Beach in South Africa, in Cape Town on the tip. And every week, the shark flags were out, and they just started, I'm not sure if they got the taste for blood or chumming got closer, but which is like cage diving. They throw a lot of food in the water, and
I read that's a problem.
Yeah. So I think that got a little bit worse. But yeah, shark attacks happen regularly there. Not as much in New Zealand. There's a lot less, even though there's ocean everywhere. There's a lot less shark attacks, a lot of shark sightings, but because there's less great whites, there's less shark attacks.
Interesting. Oh, spooky. Like as a child, like did you have nightmares about that, or was it just like so fast and over that it didn't really even register?
I was affected by it for sure, especially being a lifeguard. We swam in that ocean regularly and deep, very deep. We used to go super deep and then swim back. And after that, probably a couple of weeks after that, we were swimming in the water. And, there's a group around me, but I was relatively quick at the time. So I used to get into the front. And I'm swimming. It's quite dark underneath. You can't really see. Head down, goggles on. I see a shadow come underneath me. And I'm like, oh, crap. I just come up and I say, hey, guys, shark. And then next to me, killer whale pops up and then goes back down. But that freaked me out a little bit more because I was involved. And killer whales, they can kill you, but they don't necessarily do it. But that was because of the shark attack that recently happened. I kind of crap myself.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, even like I know just from books and TV that, like you said, typically killer whales don't attack humans. It's like very rare.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one pops up next to me. Yeah, that water's going to turn brown or yellow, whatever the case may be. Hopefully it's a defense mechanism. Crazy. Okay, good. I'm glad that was like a successful question, so to speak. Okay, so moving on. Auckland, once again, this is an Auckland question, used to be the capital of New Zealand before 1865 when it was changed to Wellington. And I don't know if you're closer to Wellington, but what makes them so special?
True. Good question. Really good question. You have really good questions. Well, Auckland, the city of sails, is the most popularized. It has the most people in all of New Zealand. But Wellington is now the capital because of the Parliament buildings in Wellington. So it's called the Beehive. And I think, I'm not an expert, but I believe they have the Beehive down there. It's a big movie town as well. A lot of fantastic museums. So Wellington's actually just at the bottom of the North Island. I'm at the middle of the South Island. So I am close to Wellington, but that's probably why it moved, because of Parliament and the government having their base there. But Auckland is the most popular. Have you guys been to New Zealand?
No. Oh, God. No. I worked with a Kiwi once and got off to an embarrassing start when I was like, so you're from South Africa? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, Australia? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh God, then where are you from? He's like, I'm from New Zealand. I was like, oh, I don't know why. I never would have thought that.
So how far are you from what would be considered the North Island? Like how far of a trip is that?
Yeah, so it's about an 8-hour drive and then a 2-hour ferry.
Ooh.
8-hour drive, 2-hour ferry. And then you're in the North Island. But my family are still in Auckland, and we were going to go up there very soon. But my wife's from Scotland as well. You may have seen on Facebook. So we do travel quite a bit to see the family because we're quite alone in this little town, like I said.
Wow. So you're from South Africa, she's from Scotland. Like that was, you can almost guarantee that you were meant to be. Like, I mean, how else were you ever going to find each other?
Oh, for sure.
So moving on, the hill with the largest name in the world is located on the southeast coast. Can you say that name? Do you know the hill I'm referring to?
I do know the hill you're referring to, and I wish I could for the viewers. I wish I could even try.
It is 85 letters long.
You give it a go. I want to hear you say it.
I only wrote down the first line.
Okay.
Tamatawa Katangi Hingakoa.
Beautiful. That's very good. And a lot of I don't know Maori too well, but I've got a funny story about this. So there is a lot of places. So WH in Maori, you say f, and
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
I know it does. And there's one town up in the North Island. When I first came here, I was like, hey, have you heard of a place called Whakadada? And they're like, no, I think it's actually called Whakapapa. But I said Whakadada. And that was a bit funny. Yeah, but there's a lot of
No, you fool! It's fucking Papa.
no, there's a lot of weird Maori names of towns, but it's a lot of cool culture as well.
So in America, we basically shit on the Native Americans and did all we could to eradicate them. What is it like with the Maori? Did you pretty much, learn to live peacefully beside them, or did they need to fight for their? Okay, so they were also
similar thing. There was war, wars and blah blah blah, and I think they killed and maimed and raped a lot of them when we came over, which is what the white men do. What the white men do best. But it's our thing. It's our brand. But we did sign a treaty called the Treaty of Waitangi, and since that treaty, it was peace. But it kind of screwed the Maoris over in the treaty.
Shocker.
It's basically like, oh, we give you a couple of blankets and food, and you give us all your land.
And one of those blankets has smallpox.
Yeah, I heard about that recently. Actually, I listened to the Bad Friends podcast, and they were talking about that. I love that podcast.
I'll have to remember that one. Bad Friends.
You don't know it? Bad Friends?
No, I've never come across that one.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee. Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee are the people. It's one of the most popular podcasts out there. A lot of swearing and stuff like that. Maybe
I've seen the picture. If I'm not already familiar with the host in some way, shape, or form, I typically aren't inclined to give it a try, because there's a lot of comedians and what have you with podcasts, and I'm not. Stand-up comedy isn't really like something I'm into, so I have to be attracted to whatever it is you're doing before I'm gonna jump on. But given that you've recommended them, I'll definitely give them a try.
Cool, sounds good.
And if nothing else, hey, your two dads listeners, all 50 million of you, listen to Bad Friends and the Anime Dad podcast, but we'll get to that later. Moving on. Okay, so only 5% of the New Zealand population is human, because you guys got so many. Never mind, you already said you had a fucking lion as a pet, so like that's not going to get any more interesting than that. Okay, I don't know if you've ever been here, but the Blue Lake is so clear that it freaks me out. It's hard to look at. Have you ever been there?
The Blue Lake in America?
In New Zealand. There's I guess, and near Auckland, there's the clearest lake. Clearly, you've not been there, but it's the clearest water in the world, and it's called the Blue Lake. I've
been to a place called the Blue Lake in Rotorua, which is in the middle of the North Island. That might be it. But there's a place, yeah, and that is gorgeous. But there's a place here that seems even bluer. It's called. It's on the west coast of the South Island, called the Hokitika Gorge, and you go there, and it's a fluorescent blue because it's from the glaciers in the mountains, and the water runs down from the glaciers, and it's super clear and beautiful. I swam in there, and you drink the water, and you only vomit for a couple of weeks after that. But awesome. It's really, really cool.
Sounds cold.
It is cold.
Okay. Oh, and so I used to have a D&D podcast, and we still play D&D.
Ooh.
So I'm in this group chat with the players, and I asked them if they had any questions that I should ask you, anything they were interested in. I think these are all still relatively unanswered and certainly pertinent to your life. So how off the grid are you? I know you've mentioned a couple things, compost toilet, being pretty far, solar powered. Like how far in your 8 hours from the coast and then the 2 hour ferry, but how far are you like to the closest town or the closest neighbor?
Yeah, we're not. Just by the way, D&D, I've just got into it and it's so much fun. I just a one-shot Zoom with someone in Texas.
Right on.
A good friend of mine, and it is freaking cool. So if you have any space, or you do it on Zoom anytime, I'm keen. But
I mean, I don't know how we would work the timing out, but we do have a player that he's from Florida, so we already are doing online.
You just let me know, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night so we can play. I'm looking for a group.
All right, well, I got you on Messenger. It's every other Sunday, and it would be not tomorrow or whatever the day it is. I don't even know what fucking day it is. Not this coming Sunday, but the next Sunday.
Oh, cool. I'm keen.
I guess it would be about 11 o'clock in the morning your time, because it's 7 o'clock-ish this time. We play for about 3 hours, 7 to 10. I'll get back to you on that. We already have campaigns in progress, but it's no problem to jump in. And we're getting off the topic on that.
Sorry, you were saying
off the grid. Yeah. Are you, well, first off, I assume that you have a card. Am I correct in that you do have, a vehicle, or are you really do you ride one of those horses?
Yeah, we're not tremendously off the grid. Like I said, we poop in a bucket, compostable toilet. We're fully on solar. We've got Starlink internet, which is one thing that's on the grid. That's satellite internet from Elon Musk, my brother from South Africa.
I think that's Elon.
And we're about 20 minutes from the nearest small town. I wanted to go more off the grid, but my wife needs some social life, she said. So I don't necessarily.
I mean, you should have told her you had a ceremony just like right in the backyard not too long ago, like all kinds of people.
Well, my wife's my best friend, so that's all I need. But and then walking out outside of my house, which is quite cool, you just hear deer roaring all around us, and that's really special. So we are kind of in the bush in that sense. I hunt, I try fish. So yeah, not tremendously off the grid. We still got the some necessities of life like hot water. We do bath in a bath that I put a fire underneath it sometimes. But we're working our way more and more into the bush, just trying to get my wife used to it, one step at a time.
And is it more of just an environmentally friendly lifestyle, or is it just like I hate people and I just want to? This is the way I want to live.
It's more, I know times are going to get harder soon. Times have got hard for a lot of people financially, and where we live as well, there is quite a few earthquakes and volcanoes. So I'd like to be prepared for if anything happens, like doomsday preppers. So if something does happen, at least we got power, at least we probably got internet, and at least we'll have food. And I just want to be prepared and teach my family how to survive if things get worse financially or a volcano erupts.
Did your dad or uncle, grandpa, did they teach you how to live that way? Did you have to learn on your own? Was it just something you were interested in?
Learned on my own a lot of ways. My dad has always been prepared and wary of stuff like that. But we never lived like that in the past. We went from house to house regularly. We didn't have much money, so we never really lived like that in the past. But my dad always warned me of it for sure.
Right on. This is just a personal thing that I've thought about while you were talking. But what are the property laws like over there? Let's say for whatever reason you're like, I don't like this spot no more. I want to move down the road. Like, do you have to tell somebody? Like, is that land regulated, or can you just basically up and move 5 miles away and then find an open spot and resettle?
I wish that was the case. I heard Alaska's similar to that. Or like if you're there for a certain amount of time, it's your land or something like that. But no, it's quite stringent and normal. We pay rates and still, even though we're off grid and stuff like that, we pay rates. We own a particular portion of land that's tight. It's got a border, so you're kind of normal.
Okay, I was thinking
similar to America.
Wild West or something like that.
That would be cool. I like that.
Okay, one of the other questions. So they were interested in how your children were acclimated to urban society. Are they comfortable in cities, and is your plan to try and sway them into your lifestyle when they're adults, or do you expect them to maybe move into town?
I'd hope I'm trying to get them to love it as much as I do. That's for sure. I'm trying to get them to enjoy it as much as I do and see the benefits of it as much as I do, and not when they get older turn away from it and say, oh, we grew up like this, I hated that portion of this. I want them to really enjoy off-grid living and see the benefit and value of it. But if they decide to move more urban or more city, I'd support them. A funny thing my daughter said the other day, because we did come from an urban place, Auckland, living in a normal house for a while, down to the South Island, she said, hey Dad, it's funny, recently I've seen you kill 15 animals, different animals, and she got so acclimatized to it and used to it that she sees me kill a sheep and gut it and stuff, and she's sitting there eating her lunch, watching me. Wow. Because I want her to understand and know where her food comes from, but yeah, that's something that I've noticed different, and she seems to enjoy it, which is nice.
That's going to be intimidating when a boy comes along trying to date her. She's gonna be like, oh, we got to go hunting, and then I'm going to kill it, and then I'm going to cook it. And he's going to be like, oh, okay. I'm just going to stand here then. I'll hold your ammo for you.
That's the hope.
What do you guys do as far as medical care? Do you basically try to take care of it all yourself? Do you have a relatively local doctor that you go to, or what's the case there?
Yeah, we have a relatively local doctor that we go to. My wife actually has a specialist appointment 4 hours away on Monday. So we're going to go up there. and spend the night with civilization over there. So yeah, we do believe in traditional medicine. I'm on medication for my anxiety and stuff like that. I wish we were more naturalist in that sense, and maybe we'll be like that in the future. But for now, we do rely on medication and stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I'm not gonna say no to medication by any means. If it helps, it helps. And lastly, they were interested in hobbies, because I guess in their minds, a hobby ends and begins with video games or something along those lines. What do you guys do? I know you said you have internet, and from talking to you, it appears to be very stable. But do you have stuff that you guys do as a family, or do the kids have go-to games that they typically like to play, or what's the case there?
Yeah, well, my daughters have a stick each that they're named. I'm just joking. Because we have good internet and the solar power is quite good, we do play games. I've got a Nintendo Switch, I've got an Xbox, I've got a gaming computer. So I do enjoy Elden Ring, Skyrim.
So it's just video games are just as big a part of your life as they would be.
Yeah, video games is great. Anime is big for us. We love watching Netflix and shows. We play music together. So I'm a guitarist and I sing, so we do that sometimes. It's different. And then a lot of hikes and hunting that we try to do. There's beautiful hikes where we live. That's absolutely incredible views. They're tough. We went on a 6-hour one relatively recently, 6 hours up like a mountain, which was tough. Because the girls, I carried them some of the way, most of the way. And we stayed at a dock, like a house at the top that they have. You stay there for free, you go down. But yeah, so we do hike a lot, which is kind of fun.
Right on. All right, so that's basically all the questions that I had as far as just general fun, questions. For moving on from that, just real quickly, we wanted to get into some dad stuff. And I think that before I forget, Dan, you had something you wanted to ask real quick.
Yeah, I actually have a couple other questions about just listening to you talk and everything about where you're from. I don't want to we try not to get political or religious. Those are our kind of two rules. But how did the pandemic hit you guys being you guys are away from from what it sounds like. You're not isolated in that sense, but you're kind of away from, the bigger cities. You're all not alone, but you're kind of alone. And I was just wondering how that affected you guys.
Yeah, good question. No, we run a business down here, a swim school, where we go to the nearest town and we do teach the kids how to swim. So we're affected financially in that sense. But my family are the best friends I have, my girls and my wife, and spending time with them, because we were shut down. New Zealand was quite strict on a lot of the shutdowns. We shut down immediately. For 6 weeks, you couldn't leave the house in a lot of ways. They were very, very strict. And it worked initially, and it didn't work, and it worked, and didn't work, and it worked, and didn't work. So, like everyone in the world. But being at home, being off grid definitely did help. Killing a few chickens, eating them for dinner, stuff like that definitely did help. Having the big area to play with, our backyard being bush and forest, definitely did help as well, because we had entertainment, we had food, but New Zealand as a whole struggled a little bit, and we're still recovering.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, anyway, on the dad stuff, go for it. Or I had one. My daughter right now is kind of she's in that phase where she likes chicken nuggets, French fries, and pizza, and that's about it. I was wondering if you went through that with your kids, and how you not recovered, but how you came out of that, or how you got them to eat more variety, or did you just kind of ride it out and let them eat what they liked, and kind of that kind of thing?
That's a really, really good question, because I do struggle with that. And recently I've been struggling with it as well. I made my daughters a lovely pasta and mince last night. And because it had too many vegetables and not tomatoes, they're like, no, we're not having that. So it's a struggle. It's a daily struggle. I still struggle with it. What I seem to do is I end up grating broccoli in different things, or coating it in cheese sauce. I don't mind them getting more calories at all, as long as they get some of those vitamins and nutrients. We also make smoothies as well. Right. So we make some smoothies which they like. We chuck some sweet stuff, some dates in there, and then they drink that, which is quite good. And we have a bit of a vegetable supplement for the girls, which you add to the smoothie, which helps a little bit as well. We try work with them. When I was younger, I didn't love my mother saying to me, "You're going to sit there until you eat the whole thing." And I just keep it in my mouth, and I don't have the best memories of that. So I prefer keep it calm, be happy, and then give them alternatives potentially.
So you are not to jump in,
No, go ahead.
but you are of the mind that, like, I made them, this awesome pasta that I love and that they won't eat. You will give them something else in that particular case.
I am of that mind, yeah. Just because it's a lot of work. Maybe I'm lazy, but as a dad, sometimes it's a lot of work being like, put it in your mouth, another spoon, another spoon, another spoon, another spoon. I would try to get them something else and maybe some fruit or something. As long as they get the nutrients, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I mean, as long as they're growing, that's really the big thing that you worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of similarly along those lines, the question I had was, do you have any current issues you're dealing with? We're also dealing with potty training.
Yeah.
We haven't really, at least I haven't really fully entered that phase. He tries to use the bathroom. He just doesn't. Are you going through anything like that it's a big deal for you right now?
Yeah, there were a few. My youngest daughter, who's 3, she took really well to potty training initially. Really, really well, because she saw her big sister doing it, and that made the difference.
Yep.
Seeing her big sister use the toilet, she wanted to really use the toilet. But she recently has been having little accidents that just came up out of the blue because she was doing so well. But it could be an attention thing potentially. So we're working through that at the moment. As well as screen time's a difficult one that we struggle with. I'm more relaxed about screen time because I use my own screen time as a coping mechanism for anxiety and stuff like that. So I don't mind them watching more screen. My wife's a bit more strict about it. So that's a bit of a struggle. And my daughter being 6, both of my daughters actually, their personality is quite strong. And they're very...
It must be a girl thing. I swear. Not to cut you off, but it must be a girl thing because my daughter has a very strong personality already too, and she's going to be 3 in a couple of weeks.
True. That's so true. No, they're very, very strong-willed, very stubborn now and again.
Yes, my God.
And that's a challenge that we face every single day. But I heard a really good advice recently that helps me a little bit. Every time I feel frustrated or angry in those situations, I think to myself, I fast forward time and I think, 20 years down the line, if I could come back to this one moment and live it for 5 minutes, of course I'd do that. Of course I'd do that in a second. I'd miss my house being messy. I'd miss my daughters being stubborn to me. So I quickly do that little mental exercise and I think, I calm down immediately and I think, I love you girls and let's work through this together. It helps me.
Right on. Yeah. I'll find myself sometimes like he'll just be screaming and throwing himself on the ground. And I'm just like laughing because I'm like, this is childhood. Like this is what I signed up for.
Yep.
So true.
Good to know that the picky eater phase is going to last basically until they're in their teen years.
Oh, yeah.
or longer.
It will.
So our next daddy issue, which I guess we will more than likely record next week, is going to be about getting time to yourself. I am a big proponent. Like yourself, I have issues with anxiety and depression. It can play a big part in your life and it's hard to deal with on the day-to-day. And I think that, just being able to relax, whether it's fishing, hunting, driving around, I think that it's necessary to get some time to yourself. But at the same time, my wife never needs that. She's more than happy just to be around me and our son 24/7. What are your feelings on that?
Well, my anxiety initially started when just talking about anxiety for a second before I answer the question, but a day after having our second daughter, my wife had a stroke, and that was terrible. We were in hospital for 15 days. She still has some lasting effects from it, mentally, and fatigue and stuff like that. So I have a bunch of anxiety from that, and it just skyrocketed after that period of time. So time to myself is quite important. I use things like anime, entertainment, Netflix. I'm quite easy in the sense that if I don't have, it's probably something I need to work through. But if I don't have a podcast in my ear, if I'm not watching something, or if I'm not doing something with my kids, my mind just goes on a loop and I just overthink. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And it's terrible. It's terrible. But when I'm watching TV or Netflix or playing a game, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just, and that helps me a heck of a lot. When I'm listening to a podcast, when I'm doing my chores, check a podcast in, it helps me not overthink about things. So it's probably not the healthiest coping method, and probably not the healthiest time to myself, but it helps me cope for the moment. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, that's what you need. You're not looking for a cure. You're just looking for something to get you through the day. I've actually reached a level, I guess it's a general anxiety thing. It's not spiking anymore, but I basically have an earbud in virtually all day long.
Me too.
Yeah, like my wife's like, all the time you've got, that in your ear and you never can hear what I'm saying. And, I've explained it to her in bits and pieces, but, by and large, it's just a conversation that we've never sat down and had. If I turn off and let in the silence, then I'm over here like looking through texts that I've sent today and like rereading them, and for no reason, like I can't unsend them, and they're not even like bad text. It's just like, did I say what I wanted to say? Or I'm like worried about the podcast, and I'm like, oh god, we got fucking 15 listeners, like nobody listens to this fucking thing, why we even keep going? I have to be watching something, I have to be listening to something, or actively involved in doing whatever, otherwise just things aren't good.
That's funny. That's really funny. I haven't met anyone, or maybe I haven't been honest about that to people before as much. I don't talk to people regularly, but haven't met someone else who does that. But yeah, even when I feel like a bad dad now and again, because I have my earbud in my ear when I'm trying to play with my kids sometimes, or most of the time, listening to podcasts or whatever, and it just relaxes me. And my wife sometimes does ask me questions 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, sorry, babe, just pause, But that's interesting. That's good to hear that I'm not the only one.
I mean, we're pretty honest on this.
Yeah,
I think my honesty it goes a step too far sometimes.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Thanks for
Yep, he said yep so quickly.
No, I was agreeing. Like it's almost we're almost too honest sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. In fact, like I'm so honest that when I'm joking, like I worry maybe after the fact that people are like, oh, well, what of that was real? Because like
right.
I'll talk about how my relationship with my dad is awful and that he's a piece of shit, and then I'll turn around and be like, and when my son's bad, I kick him in the face.
Right.
I feel like at the time, it's obvious. One thing is clearly real and one thing is like obviously not. But at the same time, I say it all in the same tone. I say it all with a straight face. So I'm hoping that, people that like, if you get the show, then I think that you're immediately going to be a pretty good fan of the show. But if you don't get the comedy that I come with, then you're going to be like, okay, 1 star, moving on to the next. So that's actually the extent of everything I have. Talked about everything that we had written down. What about you? Do you have anything to promote? Did you have anything that you wanted to ask us?
Well, I did recently start this podcast called the Anime Dad Podcast, which is a bunch of fun, and I'm talking to these cool people every single week. And you're right, it's a little bit of therapy as well, because I love talking to my wife and kids, but I don't have any friends here where I am. So talking to these people around the world, and I made some really cool friends, some voice actors that are from my childhood, Dragon Ball Z. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but Stefan Nadolny, the voice of Goku, Kid Goku and Teen Gohan, Sunny Strait, the voice of Krillin and Usopp in One Piece. I've spoken to them, and they're my friends now.
How hard is it to get those guys? Not to interrupt you, but like they seem, I've seen Dragon Ball, not all of them. I haven't seen most of the movies, but I've seen almost every series, at least the dubs. And those people are famous. Were they hard to get a hold of? How hard to schedule? Like, did you have to be like, hey, 6 months from now I'll have you on, or was it relatively uncomplicated?
No, I'm like, in the next couple of days, do you have half an hour?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I've got a bunch of interviews lined up that I'm going to post and blah, blah, blah. But I just like to do it sooner the better, because I think to myself, 6 months from now, their life might have changed, my life might have changed, a month from now, even a month from now, same thing, scheduling problems, whatever. So I like to get it done as soon as possible. Next week, I usually say, it's probably the latest I do. I say, let's talk next week. And then I follow up, and I get annoying. And they eventually shut me up. They agree. That's how I do it, really. And I don't have a tremendous following. It's growing, definitely. I've only done it for a couple of months, but it's growing. I've got about 1,000 listeners a week now, which is quite nice. But it's getting more and more, which is great. And people are interacting, and they're obviously liking what I'm throwing down. So, but it's not for that. I'm doing it just because I enjoy it, because I love anime. My daughter loves anime, and my daughters love anime. We watch it together, we laugh and we cry together, and that's really, really special. So, yep, the Anime Dad podcast. If your listeners want to check it out, if they like anime or they like voice acting, then that's a really cool place to go. But my question's for you: how do you guys know each other? You probably said it in numerous podcasts, but how do you guys know each other?
I don't know if we've ever said it.
No, we haven't. No.
We were mechanics and we worked together at a particular dealership. And then we both ended up leaving at separate times and ended up at another dealership together. And I think it was at that point that we ended up moving in together for a little while.
Yeah.
And we lived together for, I don't know, a year, something like that.
Yeah, about a year.
And then the only reason I moved out was because I got with my current, what would be my current wife. We were in a band together for a while.
Yep.
Cool. But we've just
More than
kept
once.
Yeah, we were in two bands.
Two.
We've kept in touch just enough that we've remained. It's always been like, well, I've got one friend at least.
Yeah.
I had done this podcast. It had a different name. I'd done it with another guy, and it fell apart. And he's not in the podcast anymore. So I renamed it, and here we are. Running it. We've kept it going.
Well, we tried a sports podcast first.
Yeah, well, our first was a sports podcast,
but there's so many of those that it was going to be hard to even.
Yeah, there's
not that we're not in this for the fame or the glory or anything. It's kind of like you. It's therapy for us, and we just want to get some info out there and just talk about being a dad, because there's not much out there for dads. Like he said, left, right, and center. There's help for moms. I mean, there's help out there, but it seems to be harder to find for dads. And
so true.
We wanted to kind of lessen the stigma of dads are tough and mean and, all that stuff, and that dads are actually people too. Kind of, we wanted to try to help dads find some, even if they get a laugh and it helps them have a good day or a good moment of their day. That's kind of what we're in it for. At least that's what I'm in it for. Like, I love making money off it would be an extra plus. Like, that would be great, but that's not what I'm in it for.
Agreed. I'm the same. I'd like to make a little bit of money, get some Patreons, or something like that, just to be able to support the family, and all this time I'm putting towards it maybe would help. But no, absolutely loving it, and that's cool. You guys are really, really good interviewers and stuff. Have you guys got an Instagram? I couldn't find an Instagram for the Two Dads Pod.
We don't have really anything right now because we don't have. I was going to ask this as far as your fans. We have zero interaction.
Yeah.
We've got followers. We've got regular listeners that aren't following. We've got listeners all over the globe, Poland, India. We got a regular listener in Belgium, regular listeners in Canada, Brazil, but they never have anything to say. And we ask them, we've given them, I had an email address that it was just sitting there not being used. So I was like, okay, you can email us at this email. And for a while we had Twitter. We still have Twitter, but I uninstalled it because I got tired of looking at it. And we just got no interaction. So we were basically putting it off until we, got some sort of back and forth. I don't really know if it would be worth it until then.
No, completely true. But to be honest, I don't get any of my interaction from emails or from Spotify. I don't. Most of my interaction, Instagram, is 100%. TikTok, which is another big one.
We are about to get on TikTok. I've got some reels that I'm about to start posting on there, like in an advertising fashion.
Cool.
So I don't know. Maybe there will be some interaction on there.
100%. So that's where most people interact. I post little teasers on Insta, on TikTok, on YouTube. I obviously post the videos on YouTube, and that's where people interact the most. Not a tremendous amount of interaction as of yet, but it's growing. And and then obviously putting polls on Spotify and questions. A few people interact with that as well. But yeah, I think I'll be your first follower if you make an Instagram or a TikTok. I'll jump on there and follow you. We can do some duets and collabs together. And Corey, you need a mustache being a dad. You need a mustache.
It's funny you said that, man, because I used to have a
glorious vaudeville in
the Raleigh Fingers old Western handlebar mustache. Yeah,
handlebar.
It's actually still on my driver's license, which I don't.
Didn't you have the little?
Yeah, I had a little bit a Fu Manchu going down here at the bottom,
right.
And I'll grow it again one day. But I get to this point where. I mean, not to throw race into it, but I am like white through and through. Like my ancestors are mostly from Germany. And I, for some reason, cannot grow a beard. You would think that from where I come from that I would just be set for good growth, but by and large, the cheeks are bare. And after a while, I just get frustrated and I just shave it off. And then a year or two later, I'll grow it out for a year or two. It's kind of awesome because it just naturally curls up on the end. I don't have to do anything.
That's cool.
You never had to wax it?
I have waxed it at times
okay.
to kind of like, because sometimes you want to give it that like real point to it.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, I just like, as it grows, I just do like this again and again and again. And it, it pushes itself out like a Batman villain.
That's so cool.
I get tons of compliments when I do it, but like just all men.
Of course.
Solely men. No women care about mustaches.
No, they don't. I only grew it for the podcast, really, just because I look more of it, and not. But I do look like a little pedophile as well. So I'm seeing which is more comfortable with, and my wife doesn't mind it, so I might keep it longer. But we'll see what happens.
We're coming down here to the end. I've gotten a feel for your sense of humor, and I feel comfortable asking this. This was originally a question I was going to ask every dad we interviewed, but I got to thinking about it, and I was like, maybe this wouldn't go across with every dad. But I feel like I'm comfortable with you at this point enough to ask this question. So we're going to have to say it's at a later date and time, 10 years from now.
Yes, I've tried gay stuff. Is that what you're saying? I'm just joking.
Well, I was going to turn the camera off before we got to that part. So we'll say 10 years from now, your oldest daughter comes to you and she's like, Dad, I can't believe I'm coming to you with this, but I'm a serial killer. I've killed about 5 people now.
Nice.
And I'm having trouble, hiding the bodies. Are you going to I'm not going to say, are you going to do anything? Like, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
What is your, philosophy, I guess? Are you going to help? Are you going to try and talk them down? What is
turn her in?
Yeah.
We have a lot of bush around here to hide bodies in.
It's probably easy for him.
Yeah. Like that's the thing is you could get away with it really easy.
Yeah.
We could. I mean, because of my morality, because she probably needs help after. Like an honest
clearly
answer,
there's a problem there.
Yeah, an honest answer,
Yeah, she got 5 dead bodies laying around.
That's the problem.
What happened? Did the boys try to hoot you or something like that? If they hurt her,
please tell me that's what it was.
Yeah, if that happened, maybe I'll bury them. But I'd probably say, let's talk about this. How can I help you with this? Her mental state first, and get her help mentally. And after I've gotten her help mentally, we might together go to the cops and say this is what happened. But I'm not going to do it before because of the fact that they don't get much help in prison. And I won't take her to. No, she's not going to get help. She's going to get worse in prison. She might kill a few more people. So I'd rather, get her that mental help. Hide the bodies for now. Get her the mental help, and then once I've got her the mental help and she feels comfortable, we might go to the cops and say this is what happened, and then go through that process.
That is an interesting take on it. We could go down the rabbit hole there, but I'm going to stop there on the surface and that because that's
good question though.
That's basically what I was interested in, and I wouldn't have thought good take to get them help and then try to get them, to turn themselves in, because like you said, probably the world over, they're not interested in your mental health. They're interested in arresting you and putting you away and likely forgetting about you.
Yeah,
true that.
So yeah, that's actually a good take on a pretty silly question. But as we do with every episode.
Hold on, I have one question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Being not, you're quote unquote foreign to us. You're from a different land. I only know Canadians as far as people that aren't from America. What is the perception of Americans? Are we arrogant assholes like everybody says we are? Is that what the perception is?
Good question. I would have regretted not asking.
I thought of it like halfway through, but you were on a roll.
Good question. No, really good question. I personally have. I like a few things about Americans. I like that you are confident. I view most Americans as confident, outgoing, being able to communicate and talk. This is how I view them personally. And in New Zealand, we have a thing called tall poppy syndrome, is when someone gets famous or someone says, oh, I'm quite good at this. Everyone shuts them down. And I think Americans maybe help each other and support each other in that way. Is how I view. But I've noticed that the majority of Kiwis might look at America and be like, okay, a little bit self-centered, as in the world revolves around America. I've heard stories. I've spoken to Americans when I've traveled abroad to Scotland and such. I probably had 6, 7 instances of this, being like, I'm from New Zealand, and they say, oh, is that in Australia? Or one girl said, oh yeah, I said I was born in South Africa, and she said, oh, is that the South Island of Africa? Thought it was 2 separate islands of Africa. Or they said, why are you white? Which is something that happens regularly. Oh, you're white. That's funny. You're from South Africa. Maybe the school system with geography, or maybe that's just a select few people. But yeah, that's my perception, and that's probably Kiwi's perception. But flip, we love America. Growing up watching American shows. I'd love to go to America. Because you feel like you know it so well. Yeah, it so well.
So you've never been to America? No.
Never been to America. I'd love to go to Japan next, I think, just because of anime. But I've been to Scotland, South Africa, and obviously New Zealand and Australia. But I would like to go to America. I've got a few friends there now because of the podcast. But because it'll feel like I'm home in a sense, because I'm such a TV buff. And all these places you see on different shows, you feel comfortable being there. And I think Americans like Kiwis, and Americans like South Africans are relatively okay. Probably think we're arrogant pricks as well, but South Africans.
I think that a large percentage of the people I know would be like, oh, New Zealand, that's part of Australia.
Yeah, that's pretty much
right.
Yeah.
Or like, well, I do have a lot of nerd friends, so they'd be like, oh, New Zealand. Did you ever go to Hobbit houses?
Yes, which I did. Mada is where it is, and there's the Hobbit sets all over there, which is incredible. And you go into the Hobbit houses, and then I'm traveling through a place called Arthur's Pass in a few days, and Arthur's Pass is where they filmed a lot of the show. And there's like a giant Smeagol on the side of the road, and a giant Gandalf on the side of the road, and it does feel like you're in Lord of the Rings. I'm not gonna lie.
That's cool. I have wanted to visit New Zealand ever since that movie, because just the scenery is just amazing. We live in a mountainous region, so I am fond of mountains in general. And you guys just have it's not like the Rockies or Mount Everest. Like, your mountains are pretty. You have like trees and stuff like that. It's green. And, that's more my speed. I don't need these jagged cliffs and snow-covered caps. I mean, give me snow if you need to, but just by and large, like, I'm more interested in greenery. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anything from you?
Nope. Oh.
No, that was great. Thank you so much for having me on. You guys are very nice people to talk to, and I'm hopefully we can keep in contact and keep as friends, and me be an ogre in the D&D campaign moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. We would, we'd love to have you back on the podcast at a later date. We have a segment called Future Dad, where we talk about stuff that we will one day have to endure. So there may be the times that you could give us, your insight on a past topic or a future one. But before we do let you go, we end every episode on a high note, because sometimes our topics get a little depressing. We've talked about, school shootings and stuff of that nature. So we like to end on a happy note with a dad joke. And Dan comes strong with the dad joke every time. So go ahead, Dan, with your masterpiece today.
All right. What did the drummer name his 2 daughters?
What?
Do you have a guess?
No guess? Snare and bass.
No. Anna 1, Anna 2.
Oh, I like that. That's real good.
And you can't help but smile. You just can't help but smile. I love it so much. I sent him one. I'm gonna get out to the audience. Since I sent it to you.
I was gonna use it, but I was like, you already know the answer. So.
Where does a king keep his armies?
Where?
In his sleeveys.
Oh, that's good. That's one of.
You got it way faster than I did.
No, that's real good. I actually use that in my podcast. I say, what's your best dad joke? And I'm thinking of one myself. I think we'll leave it on your ones. Your ones are great.
Well, no worries. You can get one prepared for next time you come on.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you being our first. We had another guest. Like, it was more like he was like a host than a guest. So we didn't get a good, interview feel. So I'm glad that you were here for our first real interview. And it went great as far as I'm concerned. I hope you had fun. And
I did.
We are happy to add another dad to our league across the world.
That's right.
Heck yeah.
Hope you listen in the future, and we will definitely listen to your podcast. And I wrote down the bad friends, and also wrote down to grate the broccoli, and to make smoothies. So thank you for that information. And
stay out of the water.
Yes, and stay. Oh my God! Even if you've been in the water, the same place for 50 years, just stop.
Stay out.
Get out, and don't go back.
Stop swimming.
So with that, I do appreciate it, Reilly. Thank you so much, man. You have a good day, and be safe out there. We will check you later, man.
Yeah, check you later.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
You too.